Andrew Tate is the talk of the town, and he's literally taken over the internet ever since he expressed interest in fighting the problem child. The former world kickboxing champion is known for his controversial remarks on gender roles and worshiping masculinity. Strange enough, his name also popped up on Joe Rogan's podcast as he and Andrew Schultz discussed dog breeds. Keep watching as we tell you what Joe Rogan thinks of Andrew Tate. First up, sweet little Marshall. Honestly, Rogan's podcast can get really weird sometimes. Like, there's literally more than 1,000 episodes, and we've heard some crazy stuff. But what does Dana's dog, Marshall, have to do with Andrew Tate? Joe was telling Schultz about how sweet and cute his dog is, and how he's literally a breed between a dog and a wolf. The UFC commentator said things like how Marshall comes from wolves, but thousands of years of breeding have turned him into the sweetest animal that's ever existed. We think it's a pretty normal thing to say on a podcast. It's a well-known fact that most dogs came from wolves and then humans just domesticated them. But again, what in the world does Andrew Tate have to do with this conversation? Well, get this. Joe thinks what happened to Marshall over a span of thousands of years is happening to men right now. What that basically means is men used to be all tough and stuff like wolves, but now they're all cute and fluffy like Marshall. Get it? It's like saying men are being domesticated to become softer or something, or whatever. Anyway, since Andrew Tate is pretty much the spokesperson for masculinity these days, Schultz yelled out, "Where's Andrew Tate when you need him?" If you know the guy, it's just easier to understand. But don't worry, in case you don't know, this is going to help a lot. You know how Jordan Peterson was the internet dad we all needed once? Well, Tate has dethroned Peterson to become the #1 internet father these days. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, you know? He does have some pretty inspiring ideas and thoughts, but it's not everyone's cup of tea, especially if you're a feminist. Some of the things he says are just weird and don't really make any sense. So what did Joe make of Schultz's comment? Well, Joe immediately started talking about toxic masculinity and femininity afterwards. We're not sure what he meant, but whatever he tried to mean seemed to have connected well with Schultz. Next, toxic femininity? Someone really needs to get a hold of Joe and ask him what he meant. We're only able to link whatever he said to Andrew because what he said just seems like something straight out of the Tate textbook. And this is the first time we're hearing of toxic femininity. To be honest, we're not saying it doesn't exist because, hey, if toxic masculinity is a thing, then there has to be a toxic femininity, right? Anyway, we're not going to try breaking down what Joe said because it was a bit on the crazy side. It's through toxic femininity, shot or masculinity. That's word for word what Rogan said. And we're really hoping one of you pops up in the comments and tries to tell us what he really meant by that. Of course, we understand the idea of what he's trying to say, but we're not really sure what he means by that particular statement. He also talked about how men literally carved the world, and just cause you don't need them right now doesn't mean you won't need them ever. Alright, now it's starting to sound a bit like Andrew Tate. Also, you know how Tate is always telling guys to not just sit around and waste their lives, but actually get up and go after their dreams? Well, maybe that's what Joe is trying to link here. Maybe he's trying to say that Tate is telling guys to remember it was their male ancestors who carved the world. And just because life is harder in non-threatening ways doesn't mean they can become soft. Again, this is just what we make of it. We're not really sure what Joe is trying to say because he doesn't really talk about him that much. If anything, we think Rogan seriously needs to get Tate on his podcast. Now that's going to be an interesting and controversial episode. And And now, for what the fans want. Honestly speaking, Tate has a really niche audience. Everything he says is just so controversial. Maybe that's why he's been banned from Twitter multiple times. And if you've seen his videos, you probably get why his haters call him the king of toxic masculinity. And even though he might have more haters than fans, his following is a cult. Tate's fans have been going nuts on Twitter and YouTube to pair Rogan and Andrew for a podcast. Here's why we think it's going to be one of the greatest episodes ever. Andrew has exceptional speaking ability. He has a lot of clever things to say, and he can also go on and on when talking about some topics. On the other hand, Joe's ability to break down his guest with a series of questions is amazing. So if these two guys were to sit together, the conversation and discussion would be shocking. Now it's time for some related news. And up next, not a bad option. It's pretty obvious Tate is enjoying how viral he is these days. Anything that comes out of his mouth can be found in a video on YouTube in the next hour. Oh, and let's not forget how he's cashing in on being viral by getting people to subscribe to his online university for just $49 a month. And what's even more funny is that one of the courses in his online university is about making YouTube shorts about him to gain quick subscribers and monetize your channel. Nothing wrong with that, but it sort of makes you wonder how aggressively this guy is marketing himself. And speaking of marketing, it looks like Tate knows where to be at the perfect time. After Jake's fight with Hasim was called off, Andrew called out the problem child and put $3 million on the table. For a guy who calls himself the first trillionaire of the world, a $3 million bet does sound a bit weird. And what's even more weird is that he said he knows Jake will try to put maybe 50 mil on the table to get him to back out from the fight, but 3 million is all he has right now. So if Jake wants to fight for $3 million, he knows who to call. Good trick to stay viral, Tate. Let's talk about the game plan. If we go by what Andrew is saying, this is only the first phase of his whole plan to go viral and stay viral. This phase was initially only supposed to help him go viral, but it seems like it's gone beyond that now. Whatever app you open, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, or even TikTok, finding a video of Andrew is inevitable. Andrew claims the next phase of his master plan will make him blow up, taking his fame and success to a completely new level. Well, if the first phase involved saying absurd and crazy things on YouTube, then we can't even imagine what the second phase is going to be. Honestly, we don't have anything against this guy, but it feels like all those blog posts on Google about who Andrew Tate is and how he got famous so fast were something of his own doing. It's just an assumption though. Maybe the guy just makes a lot of sense to some people. He is very interesting to say the least. Anyway, we're really excited to see what the next phase of his master plan looks like. Finally, here's to saving Will Smith. Remember that time when Will Smith slapped Chris Rock at the Oscars? Well, Will agreed he sort of overreacted, and he's been trying to make things right since. Just last week, he apologized to Rock again on YouTube, but instead of acceptance, what he got was the Tate treatment. Tate singled Will out, telling him there's a lot more he'll need to do than just apologize on YouTube, followed by calling him a punk man. The former kickboxer said he'll take Will to Qatar, where he's going to convert to Islam with him. Oh, and back in March, he also said some really contentious statements, like how Will is stupid, and if Jada had done that to him, he would have ripped her up. It's really shocking how this guy manages to stay out of trouble. He says so many crazy things, and he's still walking around like nothing even happened. But if you've been following him for a while now, you know he has a habit of starting off with a crazy statement, then following up with a somewhat logical reasoning. Still, from the looks of it, we're guessing all his stories about being linked to the mafia aren't a joke. That's it from our side, folks. So what do you think? What did Joe mean when he said all that after hearing Tate's name? And would you want to watch a Rogan Tate podcast? Let us know in the comments below. Remember, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more exciting videos in the future. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you next time.